Hello and welcome to the Tuesday, October 14th, 2025 edition of the SANS Internet Storm Center's Stormcast. My name is Johannes Ulrich, recording today from Jacksonville, Florida. And this episode is brought to you by the SANS.edu Bachelor's Degree Program in Applied Cybersecurity. Nothing too exciting in diaries today. I wrote up attack scans that we have seen for ESAFENET CDG. That is a document security management system. Appears to mostly target the Chinese market. It's Chinese maker of the software, and their website and such is pretty much Chinese only. So I assume that that's where they're focusing their marketing effort at. There have been a number of different vulnerabilities, including a cross-site scripting issue that in particular sort of affect that system config endpoint that we do see probed. There have been prior vulnerabilities like SQL injection vulnerabilities, so a little bit difficult to tell what exactly they're trying to exploit here. In particular, for the requests that I've seen so far, we don't actually have the request body. Only some of our honeypots report that, and the ones that have been exposed to these scans happened to not have reported the request body. Other than that, as any of these electronic document security management systems or secure document management systems, well, don't assume they're secure. I talked about this many times before and try to limit the exposure of any documents stored in these systems. And Microsoft has a blog post which I think makes a real good awareness item. It's not a particular new attack, but an attack that I've seen being used very devastatingly before, and that's something that Microsoft calls Payroll Pirates. This refers to attackers using typically phishing in order to gain access to an employee's HR account, and then they're using that access to change the bank account number that is being used to deposit a paycheck of that employee. That tends to affect mostly larger companies that automate these processes via HR portals. Universities is one particular target that Microsoft points out here. I've seen it used also against Uber drivers a few years back. One characteristic here is also that attackers are typically pretty good here at bypassing multi-factor authentication. So again, one of the critical items to look for here is your particular authentication scheme phishing proof? And it's only phishing proof if the user has no control over what credentials to use for a particular website, because otherwise there always is a possibility that they will enter their credentials, whether it's first, second, or third, or fourth factor, into the wrong website. So that's definitely something that you should focus on with these type of attacks. This is also something that, of course, you can solve with business rules, where it's not just simply a couple clicks in an HR portal to change the account number for a payroll deposit. This should be something that's important enough where maybe at the very least like some kind of phone call follow-on or something like this is needed in order to make the change effective. And then ahead of tomorrow's Patch Tuesday comes the announcement from Microsoft to make it more difficult in Microsoft Edge to enable the Internet Explorer compatibility mode. Internet Explorer compatibility mode was introduced when Microsoft essentially got rid of Internet Explorer and totally basically used Edge, which is Chromium-based, as their only browser in the operating system in order to support legacy sites that only work with Internet Explorer. The problem with the Internet Explorer compatibility mode is that it does expose the old Internet Explorer JavaScript engine. And of course, that engine, has gotten in the years, hasn't really gotten any more secure, in particular from an architecture point of view. So as a result, they're seeing it being abused by websites to launch attacks against users. So what they did now is they made it essentially more difficult to invoke in an Explorer mode. There is no more simple button in the toolbar and such. Instead, you have to go in the settings and then specifically enable in Explorer compatibility mode on a side-by-side basis. Enterprise users still have all the tools they are used to in order to sort of centrally manage the Internet Explorer mode, but in particular for individual users, it will essentially be more difficult, and probably also at this point is less and less necessary to actually have in the Explorer mode. I don't use Edge myself, and I don't think I ever sort of missed it at this point, but it's often sort of these internal enterprise applications or such that are very difficult to upgrade and that may still require that mode. Well, that's it for today. Thanks for listening. Thanks for liking. Thanks for subscribing. And as always, talk to you again tomorrow.